All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for taking the time out as usual. Version 4 migration is something that's top of mind for everyone. So besides the usual updates, we'll touch upon that. And then if any questions, any suggestions, feedback, as always, welcome. With that, Shiva, do you want to go ahead, share your screen and get started?
Yeah, thanks, Shrikant. So just quickly sharing my screen.
We can see your screen now. You can start.
Okay, so we're starting off getting down to the brass tacks. Okay, so last week basically we had released the agent and we basically started migrations, etc. And then on Friday we received reports from a few partners saying that some machines were utilizing more resources, and basically that was causing their RMM systems to trip, and basically in some cases it was causing perceived instability. So we essentially got these reports and immediately we basically triaged it, and then we root caused the issue as likely to be the number of queries that were basically running for compliance scans. Because one of the things that you would essentially see with the new engine, the agent, is that it essentially runs a set of almost like 700 different checks on every, like if it's a Windows desktop or a server, etc. And then basically reports back that data into the system so that the compliance can essentially be reported. So we saw that this was basically causing the sheer number of queries that it was essentially making, and at the rate at which it was making was basically causing the issue. So what we've done, I will basically demonstrate later, but we basically quickly have put in a fix, and then we have what we've done is that basically we released 4.3.9 on Monday morning, and basically that has been deployed to all the agents with the auto update that was there. And post that, we haven't heard of any more instances of this instability being reported. And so we basically are positive. We are basically optimistic that this would essentially be the fix for that particular issue. And apart from that, we've optimized a few more things basically as we moved in. And basically, the primary things that we optimized is the amount of data that's being sent. And second is that we also optimized the number of things that we are scanning. And also in the first version that we put out, we essentially were running the PowerShell in basically multiple batches. And so what we've done right now is to essentially combine all of the batches into one go and basically make it one consolidated script, and then essentially kind of run it from one single executable rather than multiple executables. So with these optimizations, we think that this problem is now resolved. So the second thing is that there was basically feedback from a lot of you in terms of release cadence and basically how we should follow the release cadence, and how basically it upsets everyone when basically things like this are released and they are not ready for this. And we basically are going to follow a release cadence. So based on the feedback that we've got, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to have weekly release of agents for 6 weeks. And the reason for why I'm asking for a weekly release for agents for 6 weeks is because this is the phase where we are basically, we've tested it completely in the lab, but basically the real world environment, there are some differences that are in there. So what we have learned from the last agent, we have those learnings and we've incorporated them in this agent. However, as we basically delve into things like compliance, etc., and basically the expanded scope of compliance, we are seeing a few things which essentially could be problematic. And that is why we basically want to fix those as quickly as possible. And that's why we are asking for 6 weeks of time where we can essentially keep making these releases on a weekly basis. Post that 6 weeks, what we will basically do is that we will move to the bi-weekly releases. And that's probably for another 6 weeks. And post that, we will essentially move to a Microsoft-like led model, which says that there is one day in a week where the release will happen. And we basically will adhere to this release cycle. unless, of course, there is some sort of vulnerability or there is some issue basically that affects everyone because of a release, then we will basically go out of turn. But essentially, we will follow this schedule and make sure that everybody is aware. And in terms of the what will be released in that versions in that particular agent will be put in the weekly call on Wednesday that we basically come out with. In addition to that, we will essentially send an email with the release notes, and we will essentially also have in-product release notes, which will basically announce to you on the Wednesday of the week what is going to come on the Saturday. So that way, basically, you are clear about what is going to happen. So this Saturday, what are we going to release? So we missed because of this the problem of the inconsistency. We held back on the Linux agent last week, but we are ready with the Linux agent, and that will be released this week. This Linux agent covers two pieces, right? One is essentially the Linux agent itself running and discovering all the assets and behaving as a probe or lightweight agent, and that's it. Second is that complete, like even if it's a remote machine, connecting to those remote Linux machines and doing a complete vulnerability and compliance scanning. And this is one of the areas where we've kind of made very drastic improvements in terms of the number of vulnerabilities that we can find, and basically also making the engine more smoother for Linux, which was not the case earlier. So basically, Linux as an operating system in terms of Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, and all of these variants, we essentially are basically putting together and making sure that all of those are supported well in this new release. Plus, something that a lot of you like, which is basically the Raspberry Pi agent. That's something that we are, which will be released on Saturday. And the agent basically has been upgraded to basically provide for a certain to basically lower the memory consumption further and CPU consumption. Right now, the CPU consumption on an average basically is around 1.1% to 2% on a 2-core machine. So basically, we will try to basically optimize this further and bring it down further. Next comes the migration status. So a lot of you basically have been expressing in the group saying what's taking so long and why is this migration taking so long, etc. So we had a huge amount of backlog, and basically, as I said, we would like to basically come in front and show you the actual data rather than essentially kind of living behind this thing. So this was essentially kind of the, so as we have discussed in the past, our architecture is that we have essentially now created this cluster using the technology called NATS, right? So, and basically NATS is what is used to essentially receive messages and also push messages. So it allows for communication, secure communication between the agent and to our servers. So when we basically did an upgrade, and this, mind you, is only around 55%. I'll show you the migration status. Only 55% of the agents were basically sent the message, because all of the other agents at the time when we sent the message were offline. So we essentially got data into the system, and our backlog was basically almost close to 1 million messages, right? So we basically almost had 1.2 million messages yesterday in a span of 2 hours. And then this was the status as of 2 p.m. yesterday. And our backlog was basically continuously growing, as you could see, basically, which within a very short span, a lot of messages basically landing up on the system. And as of today, 9 a.m. EST, what we have is basically, you can do the key number to notice is basically what is called the unprocessed number, right? So the first queue, which is basically, which says the agent underscore asset info underscore consumer, is the one that basically is being. So what happens is that the agent basically sends the data comes into a queue, and that queue essentially is processed by a set of workers, which are basically deployed on systems. And the ideal thing is that as soon as you post something in there, immediately the worker picks it up, it processes it, and basically you're done. So that's basically what it is. If it is not able to process it immediately, then it basically builds up into, and it becomes a queue. So if you look at this, basically it was 800,000 messages, and it kept growing yesterday. And we almost had 1.2 million messages basically as a backlog, which was basically yesterday. And as of today, we essentially have this unprocessed number where we have 0. So we essentially have processed all the messages, and all of those messages have basically gone in. So you will essentially start seeing data which is basically flowing into your systems, and basically the assets coming in. And we will be initiating starting tonight, your time in the US. We will essentially be pushing messages to all the agents that were offline in the first phase of the push. And so when they basically, whenever they come online, what would happen is they would essentially home in and they would essentially continue with this. We already started this process with a few large tenants, and now we are basically going to continue with all of the tenants. So you should essentially see all of the agents basically come in and report over here. Okay. So what's next? Basically, as I said, we're going to be pushing out. We have already started pushing out the next set of messages to originally offline assets. We are waiting for all of them to home in. Now, the system should be operating at full load. And right now we are at approximately 53% of the data migrated based on the reconciliation we did with basically the data that's there in V3 to V4. So basically 53% of the agents are basically homed back in. The remaining 47% have to home in. And we expect to be at 95 to 97% by the end of this week. So that's essentially the goal of what we are driving to. So once these things home in, then you should be able to use and check out all the data and the features. We basically, I know that a lot of you have basically questioned me on I'm not able to find where the scheduler is. And the answer is the scheduler is there, but basically it has been hidden right now, not for any other reason, because when people start scheduling things, then we have data that's coming in, plus basically we have data that basically will be triggered by the schedulers also. So a combination of those two basically can overwhelm the system. So we've kept it hidden for this thing. We will we'll basically unhide it on Friday. And after that, basically, you will be free to use the system because we would have basically got 95 to 97% of the entire data into the system. So after that, the load factors on the system should be much lower. So right now, basically, most of the systems are running at 40x load factor at this point of time, but we expect that by the end of the day on Friday, we should basically be at normal 1x. And basically after that, all of the systems should operate just as it was operating in V3 or better than that. So as we basically do that, so that's as far as the this is concerned, and basically we are active on the Slack channel. We basically will be answering any questions you have. Please post any questions you have. Open support tickets, we are all available. The next one is basically like with the security report card, compliance report card. Basically, there was a question saying that can we suppress? So for example, I'm not interested in looking at backup. Can I basically suppress it? So what we've done is that right now you can go to any security report card, and then you essentially have this suppress button. You can just click on suppress, and then it'll ask you to say that do you want to apply it for globally, you want to apply it to this company alone, or do you want to apply it to this specific asset? And then depending on what you apply it to, it will essentially apply that. And then, so right now you can see that the backup is not shown up here. So if you want to bring this back, you just click on add, and just in case basically it's not available, it will basically show up as add. And then when you click add, you can basically then add this back. So this becomes the case where you suppressed it by mistake and you want to bring it back. You can essentially do that later. So this functionality is already there in V4. The next one, which I talked to you about, was basically the whole compliance checks and how we run compliance checks. So in the earlier version, you basically just ran all the compliances and basically said, okay, you can look at all the reports. Two parts of that, right? We basically are just polluting the space with a lot of data, and basically and you probably are interested in only a specific set of compliances as far as you are concerned. So right now, with the this thing, you can actually go to each company, and then you can choose what compliances you want to apply for that particular company. So you can essentially say that I want CIS and PCI DSS for this company, or basically if you are in Australia, you would essentially choose Essential 8. If you're in UK, you would choose Cyber Essentials. So that way, what would happen is that you can choose what compliance scans you want to run, and only those scans will be run. And that way, what happens is that the whole problem of basically a whole bunch of data coming in and basically sitting here and we not processing it and you not using it basically goes away. So this essentially is there right now. And then we also basically with the scan agent, you can now basically go in and start a compliance scan. So you don't need to, so you can just have a compliance scan separately. And what this also allows us to do is to basically separate out the role of somebody who's doing vulnerability management and somebody who's doing compliance management. So the person who's doing vulnerability management can run his scans and basically get all the vulnerability reports and does not worry about compliance. The person who's doing compliance can run compliance scans at their leisure, and basically they will be able to do this, view the compliance reports. And if you look at it from from the perspective of roles also, the way that we have categorized it is that you have vulnerability reader, vulnerability writer, compliance reader, compliance writer. So you can essentially add these roles selectively to specific people. And basically that way, and if you want to add all those roles to somebody, you can add all of those roles to someone. So essentially, this is the next thing that we've basically done. The other improvement that we essentially have brought in, this basically is the dashboards. So we've essentially kind of released the dashboard. So if you go under overview, you see two things. One is basically called dashboard and one is metrics. So the dashboard basically contains multiple sheets, and then there are multiple dashboards down here. And then if you click on the right-hand side, you can essentially filter it for a company, or you can filter it across the entire spectrum. So all of these dashboards are available to you. We will be releasing the ability to edit all of these dashboards and basically create your own dashboards very shortly. We just basically want to finish this migration, and then we will basically allow all of those functions to take place. So that is also in your systems right now. We basically have seen a couple of partners report that there are certain timeout errors which are coming when they basically load the dashboard. We are actively looking into that, and that looks like basically a similar issue with the load, but we will essentially report back in terms of how quickly we resolve that particular piece. And I think it will be in a very short while. Okay. And basically the older item in terms of what is the risk score and all of the companies and their status essentially is basically moved under metrics. So if you move to metrics, you can essentially see the dashboard that basically contains all of these metrics. So you have, so again, you have dashboard and metrics, and basically that's the same view that basically comes out there. And basically at the compliance, again, if you choose a particular company, then you essentially have, when you choose dashboard, you see the company level dashboard and basically all the details of the company level dashboard, and you can basically see the company level metrics. Now, this is basically only a indicative screen. The final screen is going to look a little different, but there was a question about, and this has been asked for a long time, saying that I want to get what is the actual asset risk score and how did it get calculated and why did it come this way, right? So this basically represents one of the initial views, but this is not going to be the final view. The final view will essentially talk about what is the what is the category of the measurement, what is the weightage for that particular category, and the third column here would essentially say for this particular asset, what is the score, whether that is relevant or not relevant, and then that multiplication value will come here. So it will almost become like a report card where you can essentially see why did that asset score D or a E or a F, and this is basically going to be something that we're going to release on Friday this week. But the following week, what we'll be, in a couple of weeks, what we'll be doing is we'll give you the ability to edit this weightage. So in case you want to change these weights around so that your compliance score basically looks a little different, you will be able to change these weights and again, apply it on a company level or apply it at a global level. Okay, so that's basically here. The next is that I think there were some things that I think Simon and a couple of people brought up last week, saying that it would be good to say where am I being hosted, and basically what is my URL and what is the pod number, etc. So those details have been brought into this getting started view. And so you can see the tenant name, what's your base URL, what's the pod number, all of that is basically in there. We'll also be bringing more information about where exactly is your data center located and all of those pieces, and including basically a link to what is the current status of the data center. So just to let you folks know, we basically are monitoring all our infrastructure using a product called NetData because we use Linux servers. And we're going to expose views of that Linux server so that you can have a view of how the entire your pod is operating and which the pod that you belong to is operating. So you can essentially see the health of it and any alarms that may be coming up on it, because we believe that if we basically make this transparent, then you essentially know what is the status of the different systems that basically are running in this place. So that's the updates for this week. So now we can basically kind of, I think, get into the questions that are there. I can already see a lot of questions have up there. So I'm just going to quickly kind of walk through the questions. Okay, so the first question is from Mark. Same with the question about migration. We have customers that are adding new assets that we need to deploy agents to. They will appear in the both in the new and old portal. If we have deploy a new V2 agent, will that in turn sync to the new portal? If not, how do we get parity between the environments? Okay, so here is how it works, right? So you can continue to deploy your V2 agents. The moment this automated migration is completed, which basically will be, as I said, Friday or worst case, basically over the weekend, what would then happen is that we will not do any automated migrations post that. What we will basically do is that we will give you the ability to essentially kind of, like I displayed previously, you will, under each company, you will have a button which essentially says, I want to essentially sync this company. So you choose which companies you want to sync, and then we will essentially look at what are the extra agents that are installed or any extra settings that are there, and then sync them over. So that essentially will be how you will essentially attain parity. And you can basically then continue to use V2. And as I said, as we promised, basically the minimum duration for which V2 will be, V2/V3 will be available is 90 days. And if you need an extension beyond that, we were happy to basically provide you with that extension. That's no problem at all. Migration status, failed items, will they be reattempted? Yes, they will be reattempted. And as I said, we are basically sending the second round of messages to all of the agents to upgrade themselves. And then we will basically be, so what we're going to be doing is that for each of you, we are going to prepare a reconciliation report which says, with these companies, these particular agents have not homed in, and we basically would need help in getting them homed. And in that particular case, our team will work with you to make sure that all of the agents are homed in. So this is what it is. So Tyler, we have noticed that 70% of the new agents are reporting offline and are not scanning. Tyler, that's not the case. The new agents basically are reporting in right now, basically, because as I said till yesterday, what was happening is that there was a queue built up. So essentially the data was not being pushed continuously. But today, basically, the queue buildup is gone. So you should basically see updated information flowing in. And we are going to basically be pushing all of the agents to basically run an updated information push later today. And you will basically see that data flowing in. So when QA is an issue, is decreasing your sprints really the best solution? So Tyler, we are not decreasing the number of sprints. So internally, we are going to be doing the sprint. We basically are working on a daily basis, and we make daily releases internally. But specifically for the agent, since it affects people, just to give you an idea, we basically have almost like 2.09 million agents in the field, right? So when we deploy these large number of agents and upgrade them, then basically there could be issues that are associated with it. And people have told us that the ideal way to do that is to essentially kind of fix it up. So we do have the ability to kind of patch up specific partners with a specific agent in case they're facing an issue on site. So if that becomes an issue, we will basically fix it up. Okay. So yes, Gregory, we are missing the patching functionality. Yes, that is basically being released on 19th, and we are on target for that. So Andy, it is so slow as well. I basically addressed that. The point is that we are right now writing data for almost as we said, basically between 8 pods, you have 2.9 million agents, and each of among the agents, you basically have almost like 34,000 probes, which in turn would essentially be equivalent to approximately almost like 3.4 million assets, which are basically being written into the database. So you can understand that the database is overloaded at this point of time. So you can, so that's the reason it's a little slow now, but you will see basically the performance basically increase in the next, like as we head into the next week on Monday, you will see a significant improvement in the performance over there.
Just seems a bit odd giving us all access to this when it just doesn't work. I mean, nothing loads, the errors, the dashboards are blank. It feels like you've just tried to rush giving us access. And I mean, I love the old version, but this version is shocking.
Agreed. So Andy, what we will basically look in like if you're not seeing the dashboards and you're seeing timeouts, this will basically get very quickly resolved. I will basically kind of come back to the team in terms of what would be a very quick resolution. So I believe that basically the loads are basically coming down significantly. So the timeout issues should basically go back very quickly. And
Andy, I'm checking your system currently. I'll update you shortly.
I mean, sounds like I'm not alone in all the messages in the chat.
yep.
And I
So
literally just, I can't load anything. So poor.
So there are a few questions basically that we've answered. So again, folks, what we are basically saying is that, yes, as we basically pull in all of the data, you are seeing a little bit of basically slowness and basically in some cases instability. And second is that for a lot of you folks where basically the portal did not load, that was essentially because if you had loaded the portal at any one point of time where basically it was the old portal and then the new portal did not refresh. So basically there was a cookie refresh issue and that basically has been resolved now. So we have basically pushed into the CDN the fresh version, which basically has been replicated to all the edge nodes. And so you should be able to get into your system and basically see it. If not, please log out and use an incognito window with basically just clearing up the cache settings, and you should essentially be able to load the portal. If you still face an issue, please request you to just open a support ticket. We will log in and basically check what is the issue. We've had quite a few support tickets that have been raised, and we basically had all of them resolved. So people have actually logged into the portal, they've been able to see their data, and basically they continue to see their data. So this is something that I would like to basically bring to the fore, saying that it's we understand that it's a little painful, but basically if you just clear the cache, you basically open an incognito window and you log in, it kind of clears up a lot of these things. But going forward, this issue will not occur because we have already basically put in what is called the no cache. So it will no longer cache those pages. So essentially it will refresh the pages whenever the pages are being refreshed. And a lot of this basically is because this is basically the version is undergoing a lot of changes. So as the version undergoes a lot of changes, you will basically, when the new version comes in, there is a mismatch between the old and new version, which causes basically some of these pages not to load this thing. And this, we've now made it into mode where it is not caching it. So every time it is basically being pushed to the edge and you will be able to see the new version. So there was a question, can we get the legacy interface to make V4 look like V3? So I don't have to relearn everything. We are basically, we've had a couple of requests on this saying that, can you make it look that way? So the answer is, we are evaluating it, and basically we'll give you an answer by the next week's call. And I think it's not something that we cannot do, but it's something that we can essentially kind of just basically plug onto the existing interface and say that you want to use the old skin, and we basically can link it to the whole thing. Okay, so if you don't want to run V3 and V4 parallel because of troubleshooting two agents with limit resource, what's recommended to uninstall the old version? You want to deploy a new client with the V3 hoping to sync over, or should we create it in V4? So Scott, the answer is very simple. If your client is basically coming in to after next week, then I would essentially suggest that basically use the V4, because you will get all the features of V4. If the client is basically something that are going to deploy this week, then my recommendation would be to continue to use the existing portal, and you can essentially do. Todd, I'm in an empty V4 tenant that is not the same as the other admin can access. The reason this would happen is, Todd, if you were basically there in a custom role in the older version, then you have to basically get permissions on the newer version. Please raise a support ticket and we will essentially get this sorted out for you. Okay. So Todd, all my companies are missing 90% of the assets. As I said, this the sync basically is happening, and now we have essentially sent messages to all of them. They will sync back in. If by end of day tomorrow you do not see your assets, please let me know. We will basically sort this out. But there are two requirements. There are prerequisites which are basically already there in the documentation. I will basically send this out to everyone. If there is any agents which are essentially sitting, which basically cannot, they have to, there is one extra port that needs to be opened out. One is basically you need to whitelist the myconnectsecure.com portal, because that essentially is required for the agents to home in. And this is something that we already have in the documentation and in the portal. And the second is that it should be able to connect to one of the URLs, which basically is hosted on 4222, which is essentially where it does the real-time communication. So these, if the outbound communication is not opened, then you should basically get this. So Jeffrey, the servers are already upgraded. You have kind of at this point of time, each pod basically has approximately 340 cores that are running for each of you. So as I said, this is basically only for this period of time where just to give an understanding, right? Like we are basically moving from system A to system B. And during this period, what is happening is that if I was just basically going to use all of the data from the old system, it would have been a very easy upgrade. Since we are basically done something which basically we can use for the next 5 years without basically changing it, we are having to basically bring the data in and bring it in a different format. So the older platform grew organically, right? We basically had, we were probably 100 people when we built that platform, and then it basically grew to 2,000 people. So you didn't have all of the data coming in a single day or a single week. Right now, we basically have all of this data for all of the partners basically coming in at the same time. And that's the reason you essentially see the load. Now, once the data is in the system, it will reach a stable state. And after that, basically, it will behave normally. So I think my only request is just give us your patience for a couple of more days. And after that, basically, you should see the systems normalize and basically everything work as you desire it to be. Okay, so on the next question, basically, I'm going through the other questions, and so when will V4 be fully functional, and I should stop using V3? So as I said, once the migration is complete, we will basically have we will go through the whole thing next week. And essentially, what we will do next week is we will essentially show you every feature in V3 and what is the feature parity in V4. So you can essentially make a comparison. And if there is anything that we missed, we are basically we did an analysis of what things are basically being used and not used, and only those have been basically kind of not prioritized in this release. If you're using any of those features, we will essentially kind of prioritize that and move that in. Second, on reports, yes, as I said, we are basically releasing the reports functionality on this Friday, and you will have complete customization. And the newer customization is a lot more easier and basically makes it simpler to basically deliver reports. But I will let you folks be a judge of it when we basically demonstrate it next week. And we will basically take feedback and put it over there. And as I said, we've kept the V3 system live and running without any of the changes and fully functional with support at this particular point of time. So with the remediation plan option, the remediation plan is already there under, if you go under solutions, you see the remediation plan, and it is basically there. So the remediation plan is basically a very fundamental part of the system, and you can see it under there.
So there's a question raised by Scott and Joseph is, can we remove V4 agents for now until V4 is stable and then migrate when V and Connect Secure is ready?
Yes, we can provide that option. So that would not be an issue. We can basically, if you want to, we'll provide an uninstall button. You basically click, choose the agents and uninstall it, and then it won't be in the V4 portal. And you can choose to, as I said, we will basically give you the upgrade button in the V3 portal, and you can basically have a choice of migrating it when you want to migrate it. So I think, yep. So Sean, you're saying so 90 days is out of the window at this point, I would guess. The point is, I would leave that as an evaluation that you can do. I would say, rather than basically like saying that this is the reason we basically giving you both the portals simultaneously is primarily for you to basically experience the new portal. Give us feedback and say, these are the things you want changed in the new portal, or you want basically these things to be retained from how V3 was. So if you give us feedback, we can make those changes very quickly and bring it to a state where you would like to see it, right? So this, folks, I'm being very candid, right? This is a product that right from version 0 has been built based on feedback from partners. I remember the first version that we released to now, we've come a very long way. And how did it come this way? It was not basically just in thin air, right? It was feedback from a lot of partners. And I remember Dennis, Tim, Scott, and a lot of folks, Simon, all of you folks basically have given us so many features because of which basically the product is what it is today. So application baseline was given to us as a feature from one of the folks over here. So all of these features basically and improvements that we made till the version V3 is completely something that you folks have contributed. And as I said, we value that contribution, and we basically make sure that those contributions basically are not just something that we use and we forget and basically this thing. We also have helped people monetize on those contributions. My request is that, yes, is it basically easy? No, it is not easy. Is it frustrating? Yes, it is frustrating, I agree. But the point is that if we if you help us along this journey, and that's the reason we kept V3, right? So you can continue to deliver the reports, you can continue to do everything that you did in V3. The V4 is just a side. Now, the point is that I can say, oh, V4 will be ready, and basically we can just, with the switch of a button, we migrate, right? It never happens that way. Any system that you take, and all of you are basically have dealt with the systems and techniques, a simple Windows upgrade can basically go well, or basically it could have problems. So the point is that if you basically hang on with us for a couple of weeks, you will essentially see that every single feature, every single thing that you got in V3, you will get in V4. And whether 90 days is the deadline which will go out of the window, or you folks will tell me that you want basically to migrate and you want to shut down the old V3 instance, that is something I will leave up to you. So it's a choice that you will make.
Hey, Shiva, I'm going to second what you just said, and from where this was 3 years ago to where it is now is an incredible feat. And that came from all of the people. A lot of the people here weren't part of that initial group, and that initial group was getting, when you say something, it got done. And so be part of the problem. Complaining is great, but I'd suggest everybody, you have a solution, put your solution out there. These guys will do it. And I just tell you that it's the best thing I've seen developed in a long time. I use it as a benchmark for other companies that want to build something. This is how you do it. And it comes with problems, and just accept that that's failing is part of succeeding. And we just need to accept that. Just want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you, Steve.
Not that we're failing. And with that, I have a suggestion.
Yes, Steve.
The company name in V4 is so small, and you really can't tell where you are living at the time, and the company you're looking at the time should be very prominent and easy to see in the portal. Right now, it's a very small text top right. You moved it from the left to the right, which I think is confusing. If you could get it back and in bold, say, I'm working with this company right now, and make it very clear. Simple move, but I think that would be something small. These are the kind of things that make it better.
Completely agree.
Absolutely, Steve. So we'll take this feedback and we'll get it incorporated immediately, Steve.
Appreciate that.
So folks, as I said, look, 90 days, does it happen? I don't know, but basically what we are committed to is that in the 7 days, when I come back to you next Wednesday, we will be at a much better state than where we were today. And the following 7 days, it will be even better. And what I am promising to do is I will show you parity of every feature that you saw over there. And if you basically have a suggestion saying that this is how I think it should be, and we will basically put that suggestion to all of the partners. And if they say yes, we will basically get that delivered. And the only reason for why we are requesting for patients to move to this particular platform is to make this better for us to deliver. Now, the point is that we went up to V3, but towards the end of V3, we have started slowing down. And one of the reasons for that is because of the bloat that we developed a lot of features and then we got bloat. And at some point of time, you have to decide to basically kind of cut the bloat, remove the technical debt, and basically get it onto a new platform. If we do not do it, then what will happen is that I will stop innovating. And like every other company that you deal with, you will essentially start getting frustrated with me saying that, what are these guys doing and why are they not fast enough? So this is a move to basically make sure that we get into that fast moving cycle very quickly. And I know it is frustrating, but trust me, help us with this for a couple of weeks. And after that, I will guarantee you that you will be very happy campers. Okay, with that, as usual, I would like to basically thank all of you for your support and basically please keep the feedback coming. We will basically continue to make sure that this platform becomes more and more stable. V3 is fully functional. We basically are releasing new integrations on top of V3. We continue to innovate on V3 also. So please be rest assured, you have a platform that you can use to deliver to customers. If you basically, whatever you have with V4, as somebody said, if you want to remove the V4 agents, I will provide those options so that you can basically push the V4 agents at your convenience. But what we did right now was to enable people to just migrate over without having to think about it. In hindsight, maybe we should have made it something that is something like, and we will basically learn from this. What we're going to do in future is, if ever such a decision point comes, what we're going to do is that we're going to provide a button which says automatic, and you opt in to be automatic. And if you basically want manual, then you do it manually. So that way we can make this work. Okay. So with that, I would like to thank everyone, and basically we'll see you back next week, and please keep the feedback coming. Thank you very much.